All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Relaxed and Fast. Today, we're going to be talking about the little things in any sport that you might do. So this is sort of going off of the good versus great, but more getting into depth about little things that you can do to make yourself a better athlete, make yourself just better in general. So let's just jump right into it, Coach. What does doing the little things entail? What are the little things, per se?
I've been thinking about this since you guys came up with this as our topic for today, and I think ultimately this is kind of a hot take, but the little things are the big things, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody and anybody can get out the door and run. It's difficult to be consistent with that, but I think everything else becomes the little things.
Yes.
Are you doing your warm-up? Are you doing your correctives before and after? Are you doing your core work? Are you doing your rehab, prehab? Are you doing what you need to do in the weight room? And then hitting on some of the big ones, are you sleeping enough and well? And do you have good sleep hygiene? Yeah. Are you eating enough and well? And do you have good nutrition? Are you hydrating? So those are all technically little things, but they're ultimately doing all of those little things adds up to the big picture, like lifestyle
accumulate,
trying almost to be really good at the the sport.
I like what you said, that quote. I just wrote it down. The little things are the big things. I think that's a perfect way to summarize. I think if anybody is going to take something from this episode, it's that right there. The little things are the big things.
The mental side of things. So
yes.
Are you prepping for your workouts and races? What is your mental routine? How do you implement that? How do you implement that if things aren't going well? So once again, just another big thing that is a little.
And if you want to hear more about that, go check out the episode that we just did about mental health.
And I was gonna say, actually, going off that, even like with the mental health stuff, like going into more depth. Are you journaling? Are you making time to meditate and visualize? Are you coming up with mantras? And are you looking through the race and your race plan? And even more specifically to BW, are you looking through the packet you gave us? And are we looking at the splits and studying and getting ready and prepping so that you're not going in blind? And I think that's another just something to add. But I think when that quote, I'm stuck on that quote. That was really good. I don't know if you've heard that before, if you made that yourself.
I don't know.
That was really good. The little things are the big things, and I think another way to say it is like those little things accumulate so much.
Yep.
And I know that's something me and Dylan personally this second semester have really started to focus, and we've had multiple conversations about it together alone where we're really like push correctives, push the barefoot drills, make sure we're getting sleep. And I come to him, I'm like, my 7-day sleep average for the week is 8 hours and 25 minutes.
Competition going on.
We're going at each other. Yeah. And even me and Michael will text me and go, 56 ounces of water in before lunch. You better not show up to lunch unless you have
17 visits to the bathroom as well.
Yeah. He'll go, you better not show up to lunch unless you have this much in you of water. And we've started to push ourselves a little bit with that. So I thought I'd bring that up, is those little things really do matter. And I've even felt personally a change and stuff. And yesterday during my workout, I didn't have a lot of water in me going into it, and I physically felt that. And it was interesting to see that I've had problems with dehydration in the past, and it was interesting to see after hydrating for so long, one day I didn't get to hydrate, and all of a sudden you can actually feel the change. So there is a lot to say with the little things.
And you mentioned this right at the start. You said it becomes easy to get out the door and just go for a run. When you first start anything, really, but especially running, something where you have to be so cyclical, you get in, as humans, we're habitual creatures. We get into a habit very easily. So I've been doing this now for 5-6 years, and it's become a thing. I wake up in the morning for a morning run, and I'm just going to go out the door and I'm going to get my run done.
Yeah.
And it's going to become that way if you do it for a long enough time. What I've noticed is last year, around this time, that's all I was doing. I was doing my runs, and I wasn't focusing on the correctives or the core or the KOTs and the nutrition, and I was getting decent times, I was getting decent recovery, but I noticed very, very sore all the time, always, it became harder and harder to push through the training I was doing just because I was always tired, I was always dragged down. And then the more that I've focused on making sure to get 2 servings of vegetables and fruit with every meal, making sure to get 9 hours of sleep every night, it has slowly added up, and as I've accumulated more mileage and have added on more stuff, it's easier to take that in. You absorb your training.
And another thing is I actually got 2 things. First, going off that, in another episode, you said raising your floor, right? So
that's a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, that is. When you raise your floor, the floor for a lot of runners, especially at this level, is like, it's easy to go outside and run 10 miles. It's easy to go outside and do a light day. It's easy to go do a cross-train session. But it's not easy to make time for the recovery, for all that stuff. And another thing is, with what you were saying, you start to feel a difference. And since I've been really going hard and focusing those little things, I felt my body feels more durable, right? My body feels like it's holding up better. And I think when more people implement the little things, they see that the problems they used to have, they no longer have, right? And we know what my first semester was like. You two know what my first semester was like, and I feel much better than I do then, right? And I've definitely made some changes with those little things that has really helped my body to change. And I think people kind of, I don't know if take for granted those little things is the right way to say it, but I feel like people kind of don't realize
how big
they actually are.
Yeah.
But going into like how big they actually are and how they help you, how do you think, like, what would you say, how do those little things help you? Like, what can you achieve by doing those little things?
Well, I think the little things help with recovery, and the better you recover, the more you can do, the faster you can run. And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to is all of the little things are trying to help you recover at a higher rate. Why do the cheaters take drugs? So they can recover faster. And so what are the natural things you can do to recover at the highest rate that you possibly can?
And I didn't think of it that way.
Going off of that, I was just I saw a video about a study that they did, and the closest way you can get to having similar benefits to anabolic steroids is by getting 9 or more hours of sleep a night. They noticed that the recovery, the speed of your recovery becomes like very, very close. Very close.
HGH is a naturally produced substance, and you get your HGH during your like REM cycles. And so it's all based on sleep. And so the deeper the sleep that you get, the more HGH is released, which is why a lot of the professional athletes will try to take like a 2 to 3 hour nap in the middle of the afternoon, because it actually gives them one more cycle or release of some of those hormones.
Interesting. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
REM is such a side note, REM sleep is such an interesting topic that I really want to learn more about, because it's just so cool to me, and there's so many like scientific and like health beneficial facts about REM sleep that are so interesting to me. It's just it's kind of like fascinating.
There's so much about the brain especially that we just don't know, and we don't know how to tap into, and like the human body is such an amazing thing. But yeah. Anyways.
And an interesting thing is something you always say, and you said it maybe a week or two ago in a team meeting after we ran a hard-ass workout, is if you don't have time to do recovery, just get to sleep. Because the best recovery for you is sleep. Even if you're tossing and turning in bed, you might be asleep and just don't realize it. The best thing to do is sleep. Right? And I thought that was very interesting. And the other day, I was actually talking to Andrew. I'm like, damn, I'm not going to have enough time to do like a whole stretching circuit and rolling circuit tonight. And he's like, just go to bed. Coach always says the best way to recover is going to bed. And in a way, planning and finding out like how long you can sleep, like sleeping as long as possible, that's a little thing. A little thing, in quotes. Like, that is its own like little thing that has a huge impact. And it's interesting that these smallest tasks have this big of an impact on performance.
And I think something that's important to mention is, I'm sure there's a lot of college athletes that are listening to this, and obviously when you're a college athlete, sometimes, you're going to have that inevitable moment where you hold off a homework assignment and you have to stay up a little bit later.
Yeah, touch on next.
And it's important to remember that even if it's something like that, if you can get yourself into an environment where you are low energy and you have just low energy levels, you don't got the TV on and all this blue light attacking you. If you can do low brightness or even turn it on black and white, you can work on your assignment, you can do it, maybe like put some soft music on, have the lights dim, get yourself in as little of a stimulating environment as possible, and you can get yourself still ready. As soon as you're done, you can get right in bed and go to sleep.
The other thing that I was going to, and so you adjacently touched on this, but time management, right? Time management is such a big thing, but it's another little thing that you can do a really good job of, is like planning your day out, having your priority of most important things to get done, and then making, I appreciated you using the term making time, because there's a difference between finding time and making time to do something. And so whatever is most important to you, you're going to make time to do that. And so is TikTok really that important to you? It's not, right? It's not.
And another thing, even going off the TikTok point, is there's two types of going to sleep. You can go read a book or vomit, right, and get your thoughts out before sleep. Or you can sit in your bed and scroll.
By journaling.
Yeah. Or you can sit in your bed and scroll before sleep, and that blue light is in your eyes. You actually wake up more tired.
Yep.
If you do that.
Yep.
And I've actually learned that firsthand. And so another thing, going off Dylan's point, I didn't want to forget it, so I wrote it down, is me and Dylan have had conversations, and I've told you this, I told you it a couple weeks ago. I said, what I've started doing is at least 30 to 45 minutes before bed, I will plug my phone in, and it's done, unless I absolutely need it. And if somebody important texts me, it can buzz on my watch, right? Like, unless I absolutely need it, it's plugged in, it's not being touched, and I'm either reading or journaling or whatever, because it's just better for sleep.
When does your watch stop buzzing?
I think it just recognizes like when I'm asleep, and then it stops, because it's never woken me up.
Interesting. Fancy watch, dude.
Well, it does. It tracks my sleep, and it tells me when I'm in REM, and tells me like all these interesting details, which I love, because for a little bit it didn't do that.
What watch do you have?
Corospace 2.
There you go.
Jakobinka.
Okay. Yeah.
But
do you wear the armband?
I don't,
okay.
And I'm interested in possibly looking into it. But another thing I was going to say with Dylan's is, we were talking about it also when you wake up. What I've done now, if I have time, and usually I try to make some time, so like if we're waking up for a morning run, I might wake up a little earlier to do this, but just laying in bed and taking 10 minutes and like maybe looking out the window to just allow yourself to naturally wake up, instead of just waking up immediately, opening a computer or a phone screen, and just killing yourself. You know what I mean? Immediately.
Ryan Holiday talks about trying to spend the first hour of your day without being on your phone.
Yeah. And a lot of people will recommend going outside and getting sun immediately. I just went to like my doctor, right, to just like talk about some stuff, and I was like, I feel really tired, and I just don't feel like I have a lot of energy. And he's like, well, are you like going outside immediately when you're like, he's like, try going outside immediately when you wake up, because when you wake up you get the sunlight in your eyes. It actually helps with your like circadian rhythm.
He's assuming that I'm getting up when the sun is up. I'm up before the sun comes up.
Yeah, I am up before the sun is out a lot of time.
Unfortunately.
Especially in Cleveland, Ohio, in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
But
I'm not sure that the sun is up right now, and it's
But I think there is a thing where like
4:00.
You can still get the effect of the sun with cloud coverage, just like not the UV. Yeah. I don't know, but he was like, go on a walk in the morning if you have time, and just kind of like reset your circadian rhythm, and you'll find that you naturally have more energy for the day. Yeah. So I think another little thing is not only getting enough sleep, but like going about getting that sleep, if that makes sense, of like maybe, you know, not looking at your phone right before bed, maybe 30 minutes before or 45 minutes before, an hour before, you put that away off to the side. And when you wake up, not looking at blue light immediately, but actually going and get some natural sunlight, or just like, you know, waking up naturally, because then when you look at that, you get your brain does get fried a little bit, your eyes get tired, you get more tired because the blue light makes you tired. And I think that's another little thing that, you know, you can kind of take away. a thing I guess we learn is the more little things you like do, the more littler things you find out, and you can go more and more in depth, which is very interesting.
It kind of comes back to what Dylan was saying, that we are creatures of habit, and so finding routines and building routines and getting out of bad routines, because routines can be good and bad, right? So you can have the routine of, I'm going to pick up my phone and lay in bed, and first 30 to 40 minutes of my day is just gone checking emails or whatever, and that's not good either. You want to set the tone for your day and do the things that you want to do. You don't want to let other people dictate what you're trying to get done. And so doing your to-do list the night before, and then waking up and starting with a walk or a run, and then coming back and having breakfast, and going a little while before you get into, okay, here are the tasks that I have.
And I think backpedaling a little bit, you mentioned time management, and I think that is the biggest little thing that you can do, because if you don't have proper time management, you're not getting enough sleep, you're not going to be doing any other little things. So like, for
you're
example,
rushing from thing to thing.
Exactly. For example, I earlier today, like, I knew last night I was figuring out, like, what do I have to do today, because I know I'm gonna have to get up early in the morning and do my medium long run. I have a test tomorrow that I have to study for, and I know we have to film the podcast, so how am I going to spread everything out evenly so I have time to study, and then I have to work 7 to 10, and I have to edit this podcast as well. So I sat down and just thought for a minute, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this then, I'm going to do this then, and then I ended up not working on my studying as much as I should have this morning, and I had made sure to have some time set aside in the afternoon so that I could still work on it, and I'm still going to be able to do all of this and then be in bed by 10 when I get off work.
And another thing going off that, because I was actually going to talk about the time management thing a little bit. We had a conversation last week over text where I was talking about how I was trying to improve my mental game, but I didn't really have time to fit it in. And you were like, well, how are you going to do that? You have to have time to fit it in. And I said, I think I'm going to start scheduling out my day block by block to really make sure I'm utilizing my time efficiently. Because when you do that, you automatically, there is studies on this somewhere, you automatically, if you have it, like, you're getting notification on your phone, it's time to do this, or at this time I'm going to do this, that you're not falling into, like, the bad habits automatically, subconsciously. So, like, when I schedule my things out, like, I'm going to meditate at 6 p.m., right? When it's 6 p.m., I know it's time to meditate. But if I don't schedule it out and say I need to meditate sometime tonight, I might catch myself sitting on TikTok and scrolling or doing something wrong just because I don't have that structure. And I actually have this app on my phone, and I'll show you guys later, but it is a scheduling app, and it's been really helping me with that stuff, because you can do time blocks. And once you start scheduling it out, like, it is way easier, because people say, like, oh, I want to do the little things, I don't have time, right? But, like, yesterday after practice, I made time, and I was like, well, the union doesn't close till 8. I'm gonna go do my correctives, go do my stuff, and I'll run over to the union and get food, and then I'll go back to my dorm, and stuff. And even today, I was like, I have a meeting with Coach after class, but before my next class, and then we gotta do the podcast, then I gotta go eat, then I gotta go to night class, and then I gotta go do recovery tonight, right? And I have to have it planned out. And tomorrow, it's now, like, I have to get a haircut in the morning, right? And then I gotta do my pre-meet, then I gotta do a haircut in the morning, then I got a meeting with Coach, then I got class, then I got another class, then we got the meeting after that, and then what am I gonna do tonight? I'm gonna eat dinner, I'm gonna do this, and that, I'm gonna read, right? And I gotta plan that out in order, because if I don't plan that out in order, then now I'm all disorganized, right? And it's all over the place, and there's 1,000 things I want to get done in the day, but I don't even remember it half the time, because I'm not writing it down, I'm not scheduling myself.
Yeah. And figuring out how long things take is another important
so
too.
Which you're really good about, by the way, because we always get scheduled out, and I noticed it during camp week of cross country. Every little thing was scheduled out, and I can't lie, we almost hit everything on the dot for the most part. We hit everything on the dot. What were you saying? Sorry.
So I had a conversation with Joseph Kelly a few weeks ago, and he was telling me, he was like, and if you guys don't know Joseph Kelly, he is a busy man.
He's a character.
He is a very, very, very smart person. He does a lot of these crazy, like, he's showing me his
computer
math problems and stuff.
Guy. Yeah.
His math, I'm like, I don't even know
always on the computer.
What he's looking at. He's solving some crazy equation, but he was telling me that he was considering for a long time, he's like, cross country is just, he's like, it's taking up so much of my time, and my time management is all messed up. So what he did for a class, he had to actually track his time, like everything that he was doing. He's putting into an app. So he sat down. He said, all right, 20 minutes in the morning I ate, and everything was in this app. He structured everything out, and over a couple of weeks he actually looked at it and saw how little time, quote unquote, he was actually spent. He's like, even if I were to stop running, he's like, that's only giving me enough time for like a couple more hours of studying. And he's like, I literally sat down and like actually mapped it out, and it wouldn't have been beneficial. He's like, I could have made that decision and said, and just impulsively been, oh my gosh, this is so much work, I can't do it.
Yeah.
But you know, he was intentional about it, and he actually looked into it, and he was like, no, this is something that is beneficial enough for me that I am willing to take 3, 4, 5 hours out of my day to do it.
It's always interesting to me. We lose kids a lot to that excuse.
Mm-hmm.
It is essentially what it comes down to. It is because, listen, I've coached plenty of pre-med majors and double majors and so on and so forth that have gone on and been 4.0 students and multiple time academic All-Americans and multiple time All-Americans that they are able to schedule their stuff out. They get really good grades. They are high achieving in multiple different things, but you're all of a sudden you can't do that, and it's like you need to. There's something else that's going, and that's fine. Like if you're not into this, that's okay. Yeah, exactly. I'm okay with that, but don't use that as your excuse if it's you can make time and fit this in if it's important. And I think that's another really big piece too.
That is a big piece. I was
the little things need to be important to you.
It's out of the love of like how much do you want this? How much do you love the sport? Exactly. And like how much do you? And it's not even just the little things in running. How much do you love what you're doing? Or do you love it enough? Is it important to you enough to do those little things?
And I we've talked about this before, but my ultimate goal is to help you guys become productive members of society and better human beings. And I always think about the kids that are like, well, I need to focus on my academics. Well, how are you ever going to have a significant other or a family and a job and try to get your physical and mental health taken care of and make sure that you have nutritious meals to eat? And like being an adult, like it scares me sometimes when I hear that as the reasoning behind not being part of the team. It's like you need to focus on your academics. Well, what are you going to do when you have to juggle stuff once you graduate from here? Are you just going to
the uncontrollable?
Sorry, children that are mine. I don't have time for you because I have to work.
Or sorry, job. I don't want to.
Right? Yeah.
It is almost the right kind of stress to have. It's the right kind of. I was talking to somebody last night. I was like, it's very stressful, to run and do school and do all this stuff and film the podcast and do the social media stuff. And I said, but what else would I be doing? I love the challenge of it because that challenge is just preparing you for the next part. And I think it's more of like there's a level of dedication that comes to doing those little things, and it's like how much do you love what you're doing enough to do, or do you love it enough to do? Are you willing to do that hard little stuff? Because the little stuff is very hard. And in a book I was just reading, which was Atomic Habits by James Clear, he always talks about 1% improvements. And those little 1% improvements, they're so small, they're 1%, but they mean so much that they accumulate, and the performance goes up. And he talks about the British cycling team, and they got a new coach, and they're historically terrible. I'm talking terrible. I'm talking like Washington Wizards bad, right? They were terrible. And they got this coach that came in, and he started doing these little things like painting the van a certain color that actually like mentally relaxed people before high performance things, and little stuff like that, or like certain material in their racing suits that actually helped them get a little faster. These 1% improvements, and over time they accumulated. They end up winning like multiple world championships, cycling championships and stuff. And I think one of them won the Tour de France after that. So it's like these little 1% things. They look so little, but they are such a big deal. And it's just about like, are you dedicated enough and willing enough to go through these little things, you know what I mean, to achieve that goal that you want, or that most people have in mind.
And something that I want to touch on really quickly is knowing what your goal is. So back at the end of last semester, when I was struggling with mono and I was just in a terrible mental space. I had been, I wasn't doing any hard things. There was a time where I wasn't running. So I would wake up at 11 a.m. and I would get out of bed and go to class. I'd eat at 4 p.m. I was in a terrible, my life was quote unquote easy, but I felt horrible. Yeah. My mental health was the worst it has ever been. I was not doing well. I was making bad decisions. So I took a step back when I got on break and I was like, because I was thinking during that time, I'm like, I want to quit. Why am I even doing this? I can't. And then when I was able to gather my mental state, and I suggest this for anyone, even if you are currently having a good relationship with the sport, sit down and just have a conversation with yourself of, why am I doing this? What is my reasoning? And you might not be able to come up with you probably won't be able to come up with a definitive reason. But then once I got healthy and I was able to start training again, I told myself, I made that decision right there. I said, I was in a position where I took the easy part, Mm-hmm. Like I was in the position where I wasn't running. And I'm like, that's what my life could be like if I wasn't doing this sport, So when I came back and now I specifically made my schedule very busy for this semester. I'm like, I really, really want to challenge myself and I want to take myself out of my comfort zone. So this first month, I call my girlfriend every night and we always just, we complain to each other about it. Oh my gosh, I was so busy. And I'll sometimes find myself complaining about this stuff, but then in the back of my mind, I feel so accomplished when I can sit down at the end of the day and, quote, complain about this stuff that I get done, but I got it done. There's no better feeling than when you have a full plate and you have all this stuff you have to get done and you sit down at the end of the night and it's all done and you have nothing else that you could have accomplished a day and you can sleep like a baby. And
do you think you'd be running as well as you are right now had you not had mono and had to go through that?
Damn. That's a good I'm question. A very big believer in everything happens for a reason. So I mean, I can't say what would happen if not, but I don't think so,
Coach is throwing that was philosophical. Because he's saying the challenges that we face make us better athletes and human beings. And that was a good question.
I also think that the challenges make you appreciate what you have.
Yeah, exactly.
More.
Absolutely. When we know my first semester, and there are people who don't. So a little recap of, I immediately got rushed to the ER after my first week here for some unknown medical condition. I took medicine for it, had an allergic reaction with a head-to-toe rash, followed by an injury of an anterior pelvic tip that left me out for months, and I was fighting for my life to come back, right? Then I also got mono on top of it, right? So I was dealt a pretty bad hand.
It's really a dream first semester.
Yeah, it was glorious first semester. And I will say, right when my first run back, it was in the beginning of December, and I was running like, damn, I'm never taking this for granted ever again. I was taking running for granted. It was becoming just my everyday whatever. Like, it was part of my life. I'm never taking it for granted again. And we had a conversation, I think over break or just after break, where Dylan was like, if I ever am able to come back to running after mono, I will never take it for granted again. And Dylan told me, and I agreed with him. Right when we came back, he just goes, I am so effing back mentally. He's like, I am so back. And I just think it's so interesting. Those challenges really make you take things into account of really be grateful for what you have, mm-hmm. which we talked a little bit about in the mental health episode is gratitude journaling, which is something you stress a lot, Coach. Mm-hmm. And that gratitude journaling, it really shows you hey, you have this amazing opportunity to run at a school, with teammates that are great and a coach that cares, and people forget about that. Mm-hmm. And then something so big as mono or an injury or a random illness that gets you sent to the ER and then gives you a rash head to toe, which is still crazy. It happens and you lose it for a little bit and you're like, oh, I mean, excuse my language, shit. I've been taking this all for granted, this opportunity that's been brought upon me, and that, I think that woke me up as well personally, because I was also doing the same thing where and mono makes you very tired, but I remember coming into EB's office for a meeting once and I was like, yeah, I don't feel as tired. I got 10 hours of sleep, but I just woke up and it was 11. And he's like, you just woke up? It's and I didn't even realize that I was not waking up at the normal time a human being should be waking up. And another thing I want to say is, like, I was doing that and then eating late and just waking up and living around my class schedule and, like, you know, and we've talked about that before as well. And it felt like I felt okay, but, like, you know, didn't feel great. And now that I'm, like, pushing myself, and it's every day, it's like, wake up, do this, go to class, homework, grind, recovery, go to bed early, right? Wake up, read, you know what I mean? Like, every day it's pushing myself another way.
Yes.
I'm so much happier. My mental state's so much better. And I think the narrative that people put out now is, like, just do this and, like, relax and chill and get 40 hours of sleep every night, sleep the whole day, and wake up at 8 p.m. and play video games and screw around. And it's like, yeah, you might feel like you're happy, but you don't really know how happy you could be if you just push yourself a little bit. And the narrative is like, oh, those things are hard, like, you don't have to do them. And it's like, no, actually, if you do them, you're going to feel much better.
So that is the whole, I think, that's a perfect way to summarize what we're talking about in this episode, because it's the little things. There is no miracle pill that you can take that's going to make this easy.
Once a runner.
That's the whole narrative of that book, if you've ever read it.
He's been pushing me to read that book.
But here's the biggest thing. Like, as you were saying that, it kind of just clicked in my head. And if I've been through tough situations in the past, you know, last outdoor season I went through a time where I was going through shin injury and I was having, again, my anxiety was really bad, but the one thing that was different was I wasn't thinking about, oh, like, in the future when something bad happens, how can I change my mental state so that I can cope with it? I was just thinking about, oh, I just want to get back. And then when I got back, I just was in the same cycle, and then bad stuff happened again and my anxiety got bad.
And not working on preventing.
Yeah. So this time around, that is something that people don't emphasize enough. When something bad happens, it's not about just trying to get out of that time. It's also about making sure that you can have a plan for when it will inevitably happen again. Something's going to go wrong.
Wait, how can you react differently
and
adapt?
And that's what I was so intentional about doing this winter. And I know, talking to Anthony and surrounding myself with the right people, I was like, and since I've come back, there's been some tough times. There's been some stuff that's happened, but now sitting here, I was just talking to my brother today. I was on the phone with him, and I remember this time last year, I was so worried about racing this meet that we're going to this weekend, Ashland, and I was so worried about it. I ended up having a good race, but I barely enjoyed it because I was just so worried. I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do this. And this time around, I just feel like I've done everything that I can do up until this point. You know, I don't think you can ever be perfect, but I have controlled everything that I've tried to be intentional about. I've been intentional about it. And there's been times where I start getting anxious, but I have found a way to cope with that and alleviate some of that pain, and now I just feel so relaxed going into this, you know? Whatever happens.
But, like, look at also the results. You just broke 420 this past weekend and had a great race, and you've been having some good workouts, and, like, you even told me, like, I feel so much better, and I've been doing Wim Hof more, like the Wim Hof breathing more, and, like, that's been really helping my mental health, and I've been implementing it again too. I was doing it a lot, and then I got mono and got sick, and, like, you know, my whole
probably the
life
most important time.
Yeah, which is probably the most important time to do it. Yeah, you know, and, like, and it's just very interesting to me that you now are, like, we can all, like, I can physically tell that your mental state's way better than it was, and you can see it in the workouts, and it's reflecting in your running almost. Of, like, look at the massive mile you just put in this weekend, and
which is just scraping the surface.
Which is literally, and I was about to get there because a lot of the competition was your own team, in that mile. You know, the heat wasn't extremely large, but once the competition gets more and more, you're just scraping the surface of your capabilities, and now you have this base laid of all these little things you started doing, right? And that has helped you prevent, and what I've seen is, like, I got injured in cross country season, and I've come back, and I'm like, every day I make it a priority to do, like, the recovery stuff and the correctives, and make sure that crap does not happen to me ever again. And I definitely feel sore a lot. It's way different. But, like, I'm like going out of my way to make sure I never have to deal with that again. And if I do deal with that, I will come back quicker because of the base I'm laying now. So that's, like, for me personally, that's how I feel. The little things, you know, help you out. Like, that's how they help you. And I think coach stresses that a lot, especially in camp. When we do those meetings, we have a lot of meetings during camp. For people who don't know, we have a lot of meetings. We talk mental health. We talk what you can do to be better. How EB coaches, coaching style. We have Doc Locke come in and talk mental health. Like, we have different things like that. And something he would always say is, like, make sure you're doing your correctives, do your recovery, eat right, like, drink water, right? And back then, I didn't even know what a corrective was. Like, to be honest, like, that first week I was like, what the hell are correctives? I think I asked Sam, I was like, what the hell are correctives? And he explained it to me. But it's like, EB is saying that because he knows, this stuff can happen. But if you do that, you can prevent it from happening in the future if it does happen. And he knows the training isn't easy, but this stuff makes it so that you don't die from it. Because if you do nothing, if you don't eat right or eat enough, if you don't drink any water, if you don't do recovery, you are going to break down. You are going to die. And that's not even just like running. If you don't do your work at your job, you are going to get fired. You know what I mean? If you don't do your schoolwork and you don't pass your test, you are going to fail, right? So it's a very interesting thing. And when we say EB tries to, make his athletes good in all areas of life and become better people,
huge part of it, yeah.
That's a huge philosophy. You know what I mean? That's a huge thing to.
There's so many life skills that we can pick up through being a good athlete that are going to help you out in the real world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, and there's so many things that you guys are hopefully learning and picking up as we go through that you can apply later that you don't even realize. It's almost like I'm sneaky about teaching some of this stuff, right?
Almost subliminal.
Yeah.
And I agree.
I think that just summarizing kind of the tangent that I just went on,
a live time versus dead time is the best summation of what you were saying, I think. Like,
and so they mentioned I had a good mile race this last weekend, and the 420 barrier is something that I have been trying to break for a very long time in the mile. It's always been a goal of mine. And I was reflecting on my race, and I realized that the thing that I was most proud of and the thing that was most prominent to me after that race was not the time that I ran, was not how I felt doing it. It was when I got on the line, dude, I felt as bad or worse as I've ever felt. Like mentally, I was my brain's telling me I don't want to do this, like, because I knew I was gonna have to basically do that race alone. Sam was pacing me out, but I knew I wasn't gonna have a pack around me, and I was like, I've never done this before. I've never been in this. How am I supposed to break this record, or how am I supposed to break this barrier when I've never done it before, and I'm gonna be completely alone, and I'm telling myself all this stuff. And in that moment, it clicked in my head. All these years, I've been trying to get rid of my anxiety and get rid of that feeling of pent-up aggression. And you said a quote at practice yesterday that perfectly summarized it. Anxiety is so similar to excitement, that feeling. So it's not about getting rid of it, because if you get rid of it, it's going to be worse. It's about weaponizing it and turning it into excitement and turning it into something that can be beneficial. So I remember being on the line and I was just really jittery. So I was telling myself, I'm like, all right, I did my strides, and I physically like yelled. I was like, ah! I was like, all right, let's go. And then I was like I was doing like shadow boxing on the line. I was like, all right. And I was just physically letting myself kind of like physically embody that feeling that I had inside. Not like fully like start raging and stuff, but I was just kind of letting myself
starting to get in the moment, starting to feel the feeling like, let's effing go. We're going to go out there and cook it.
When I got out into that race, it was by the time Sam dropped out.
Keep going.
By the time Sam dropped out as the pacer, and we were 800 meters in, it wasn't a question of, oh my gosh, I need to drop out. This is too hard. It was a question of, I already made it this far. Like, we just went through, and at 2:08, all I need to do is do that one more time, So it brought everything to a scopable level, It brought everything to earth, and it made it a lot more digestible, I think, when you can use, you don't have to cast out, pariah your anxiety. It's something that you can get used to, and it's something that you can use. Reframe it, exactly.
Yeah. And definitely easier said than done with that.
I've been.
So once again, it
doing
takes
that for years.
Talking about the mental health stuff. Like it takes practice doing that, and that's why doing the little things matters so much, because these things are things that you have to practice and get better at, and repetition helps, and so on and so forth. So kind of how we talked about last time. If you go out for one run and you think you're going to be the fittest you've ever been, and it's the first run you've ever been on in your entire life, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a process.
Yes.
And we talked in Good vs. Great a little bit about the one episode that we did with Good vs. Great, like about the process, and falling in love with the process, and how do you tell athletes, hey, you just take it one day at a time. Personally, that's something I deal with. I want to be up with Dylan right now. Unfortunately, that's not the world we live in, and I have to work towards that. And that's something I'm dealing with in my personal thing, and I'll put that out there that I am dealing with that with personal mental health stuff. But it's consistency. It's every day. Show the hell up, and something that I think that we don't talk about with the little things, or we haven't really touched on as much, as just as you have to practice running, or practice work, or practice this or that, or practice basketball, you have to practice doing those little things, and you have to practice implementing them into your everyday and into your life, because it doesn't take one day to form a habit. It takes multiple days. There's a scientific study that's like it takes like 29 days to form a good, strong habit. And I just run a whole book about habits. I'm very into the book that I just read about habits, and they go into that of like, you have to keep doing it. And it's the question of like, how do I keep doing it? How do I remember it? It's like, you have to make it out in the open to do it. You have to have a cue to know how to do it. So I've gotten in the habit of doing my stuff, like my rehab stuff, after practice. And the habit I started with is like my exercise band for hip strength. I used to put it where I put my shoes. So when I put my shoes away, it was sitting there, and it would remind me, oh, you gotta do hip strength. Right, so then I grab the band, and now automatically, right when I put my shoes in my backpack, the band's already there, and I know I have to go grab it. So it's stuff like that. It's like forming the right habits and being consistent and disciplined with it. And then that's where we get to that accumulation over time. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
100%. So another question I have is, and it kind of goes off that second question. We went into a long tangent, and honestly, that actually isn't a bad thing at all. I think that actually was pretty healthy. A very good conversation so far, by the way, guys. But how do doing the little things affect your performance, Coach? Like, what do you think that does? And can you even name an example of athletes you've had that did those little things, and you could visibly see an improvement from them? First, maybe you don't have to name drop, but like maybe an athlete that did it.
Hastings.
Yeah, on your national qualifier.
Right. Yeah. Kelly was really good about doing the little things. She was really good with her time management. She would do her correctives or cool down exercises or whatever we had going at that particular point in time, dock lock exercises. She was very meticulous about that. So she would be one of the first to practice, one of the last to leave. And then she kind of took Alyssa under her wing. And then Hastings was just really good at doing all that stuff as well, and she just pulled Mo and the rest of that, Maddie, Kyle, the rest of that group in with her, and kind of they did all of it. But and obviously that group became really good, and then Hastings and Alyssa kind of mentored Hope into what does it take to be really successful. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I've got a million examples, and I could talk about Daniel Sorensen from McPherson, and I could talk about Eduardo Vasquez from Sacramento State, and I could talk about Ben Maurer, who's the coach at Allegheny, who was at Allegheny when I was there, and Ryan Place, and all of the guys that were there with them, and the improvements that they all saw too. I think the truly great athletes are the ones that embrace this stuff.
Yeah, and so. I think that something that is also important to mention that I don't think gets enough of a spotlight is the fact that there is people out there that have been great without doing the little things. And it's the thing of comparison is there is a 0.001% of people that, can get away with not doing much, and they can still be great athletes. And it is so dangerous because I went to high school with some people like that, people that were so naturally talented. And I talked to them, I picked their brain, like, what do you do? And they go, I don't know, I show up and I run.
But
I don't do anything.
The thing I'll say about that is, like, imagine if they did do those little things.
And that's
like,
the thing.
Like, you know what I mean?
But,
like, imagine how much better they even could be after that.
Yes, but the point I want to make is that the last thing that you should do is try to say, oh, well, so-and-so would drink after his races, and so-and-so would do this, so why can't I? You know, and that is such a dangerous thing that I have ran into so many times. This person did this, and so that's what I'm doing. But I go, that person also didn't make a national meet. That person also didn't get to this level.
It gets to a point of comparison.
Yeah.
Stop comparing yourself to others. And again, another issue that I sometimes struggle with is stop comparing yourself to others. Not even of just like, oh, I didn't run as fast as that guy, or I didn't perform as well as that guy, or that guy's better at his job than me, or that guy gets to do this, why can't I do it? You're not that person, right? And every person is different. We're all different people, right? We all function different ways. We all have similarities and differences, so it's like stop comparing yourself to those people. And I think that's where when you see that and you're like, oh, this dude won a national championship, and I know that this guy drinks a lot, or this guy parties a lot, and it's like, so maybe I should just do what he's doing. It's like, no, you know, that guy might just have a lot of natural talent and he got lucky, right? But not everybody's built like him. So maybe we don't do those things, maybe we do the right things, and imagine how much better he could have been if he did do those things. Mm-hmm. And it also gets to a point of like, yes, surround yourself with the right people, surround yourself with those good people, but don't compare yourself to those people constantly.
And it goes back to a fact of, if you are constantly looking for the easy way out, you're going to find it. You're going to find an excuse if you're looking for it. You know, if you really want to go out there on a Saturday night and go drink, you're going to find a reason to do it.
Find a reason. It's very easy to find a reason.
So it's about finding a way to not have to use an excuse, you know, find that way to say, I want to be good. I truly do. That's why you need to have that conversation with yourself. Are you doing this? What reason are you doing this for?
Yeah.
You know,
one of my buddies, Jeff Barker, coaches out in Iowa now. He has the phrase that he always uses: "Simple ain't easy." Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of sums up, like, the little things are very simple, but they're not easy to do. It's not easy to make time. It's not. But it's also not easy to qualify to nationals. And
it's not easy to go run a 5K all out. You know what I mean? And it's not easy to go run under 420. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to go break 4 in the mile. Like, it's not easy to do that stuff, man.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy.
It's definitely not easy. It is. You know what I mean? It's not easy to do that stuff. So it's like, people who think that all this shit's just gonna be sunshine and rainbows, it's like, you're completely wrong. It is hard work, and we can even go back. We talked about good versus great. Like, you see Jakob Ingebrigtsen on the surface, and this guy's running insanely fast, or Michael Jordan or LeBron. These guys are playing at such a high level, and you're like, damn, like, I really want that, right? But people want the success without the process. Mm-hmm. And in the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, he says, fall in love with the process. Mm-hmm. Fall in love with the systems. Don't fall in love with the product, because the product will come. But you have to be in love with the systems, because once you're in love with those systems and you implement them, you will get your product.
What was the quote from Jordan in the Last Dance or Final Dance?
He said, maybe I fooled you, or something.
No.
That one? So where he's like, maybe I thought it looked easy?
He said, there were times where I would drag people in, but the one thing that people couldn't say was I wasn't willing to do it myself.
Yeah. I've seen that.
That one, that's a good quote. Yeah. There's a lot of quotes in that one.
There are.
I'm going to rewatch The Last Dance. Side note. Yeah. Well, I know the one that he said, I don't know if it was an ad, I think it was the end of Last Dance, he says, maybe I fooled you, maybe you thought it was easy and I made it look easy, but you guys don't understand the work. Yeah. And even Kobe, you see Kobe standing in front of all the fans and the confetti's coming down, he's holding the trophy, but people didn't know about when he was in Team USA up at 5 a.m.
Right.
and they show up purposely early to try to beat him there, and he's already at breakfast with the ice wrapped around his knees.
Yeah, and that's like one of my favorite
That's one of your favorite ones,
yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And people don't see that. People want that success without the system, without the result.
And LeBron was in the Cavs facility, like, essentially the day that they got back at like 6 a.m. already getting back to work for the next like the day of the parade. He's freaking in there at 6 a.m.
LeBron has talent and Jordan has talent and Kobe has talent, but look what they did. And even Kobe is a great example because Kobe came into the league, right, and he had that talent to get into the league, but he said, okay, I can go one or two ways. I can be some role player, right, some guy I never remembered, or I can go be like Jordan. And so he followed Jordan around and he said, I'm going to go work my ass off and I'm going to be one of the best players to ever play the game, right?
Yep.
And like that is something Kobe did. And you see it in like the Mamba mentality was literally created because of that.
Yeah.
Right? So it's very interesting that like people want that result but don't want those systems.
And I think I mentioned there being people that can get away with a lot of stuff, but everyone that is at a certain level, there is still a minimum amount of work that these people are doing, and that minimum amount of work is a lot.
Yeah.
You know, there's still a lot. The worst person in the NBA is still doing more training and more towards this effort. He's probably doing 10, 15, 20 times more than the average person that is a high school basketball player.
We make that one joke at practice that one day when Christian's like, oh, I could beat Bronny James in a one-on-one. And you go, are you serious? And we talk about Brian Scalabrine. We always say that guy's terrible, right? But he did that. He was like 40.
The scourge.
Right? He was like out of his prime and did like one-on-ones with random dudes and would beat them like 11-0.
This is one of the worst guys.
He's one of the worst guys in the league, and he's so talented.
I can't. Oh man. Trevor Moawad, and it takes what it takes, talks about one of the running backs that he worked with, and I'm drawing a blank on the running back's name. He ended up being one of the most prolific rushers in NFL history, but the problem was that this guy kept getting hurt because he was going out and partying and all this stuff, and they could see the talent, but he couldn't make it through the full season healthy. And so he set the goal. Their first goal that they set was, I'm going to make it through the season healthy, because his rookie contract was coming up.
Yeah.
And so the thing that Moawad talked about was, well, what are the guys doing that are on their second and third contracts, that are on these big contracts? And they figured out that a lot of those guys were coming in to the facility at like 6 a.m. And he's like, well, what am I supposed to do at 6 a.m.? Trevor Moawad like, I don't know, go figure out what they're doing. And what were they doing? They were doing the little things. They were foam rolling. They were getting their lift in. They were, taking care of their bodies and doing all the things that they needed to do to prep for practice. And what ended up happening is part of the reason this guy kept getting hurt is because he was going out to the clubs every night. And then he would come rolling in to practice, and then something would happen because you're not recovering, and you're not doing the little things when you're not taking care of yourself. And so once he started doing that, he started making it through the season. He started becoming this prolific rusher and so on and so forth. And now I'm pretty sure the dude's like going to Canton type of thing. And it's so once again, it comes back to what are the guys and gals doing that are being really successful. Like I had conversation with Gianna the other day, and I was like, how often do you talk to Hope Murphy? And she's like, well, she wasn't really around in the fall that much. And I'm like, do you want to go to nationals? Well, yeah. And I'm like,
talk to somebody who did it.
Why are you not following her around like a little lost puppy dog, man? Like that's the blueprint is literally on your team right now.
Especially when that person is more than willing to take you under their wing. And I'll give you a negative example. You just gave me a positive example of somebody. A negative example would be somebody like Johnny Manziel. Dude was one of the best college quarterbacks we had ever seen. But he's partying all the time, and he's saying, the more I party, the better I play, Where's Johnny Manziel now?
Yeah.
Because he got drafted to the Browns. They did terrible. And I think he made it in the Canadian League for like 2 years, maybe. And that guy's gone, right? Yeah. So it's like, where is he now? He was one of the best college guys
ever. You could be a flash in the pan, but can you have the sustained durability to be good over years?
That's why you look at somebody like LeBron. You're like, the dude's 40 years old, and like last night dropped 25, 10, and 10. Like he's still averaging or like getting triple doubles all the time. He's 40.
Yeah.
He is way out of he should be way out of his prime.
He's played with 35% of the league.
He's played with crazy stat that you pulled. He's played with 35% of players in the league. He's played against 35% of players in history.
Yeah.
Right? The dude's been in the league forever, but he's got that longevity. And there's a documentary on Netflix called Starting Five, where they go over 5 NBA players currently in the league: Jimmy Butler,
Yep.
Sabonis, Edwards, like LeBron, and they show how LeBron does these stretches and these drills, and like how Jimmy Butler's like, if I want to stay healthy and like be playing as long as I want to, like I have to do these things and be mobile so that my body does not break down. And it shows like LeBron is putting in that time, and Jimmy Butler especially, they really showcase Jimmy Butler with it. Jimmy Butler is putting in that time because he wants to be able to play till he's 40, and Butler's 36. You know what I mean? So yeah.
All right. Unless you have anything else you want to add here, I think we get into these
rapid fire questions. So I'm going to ask the first one because we've talked about it a little bit. Very recent news breaking on ESPN a few days ago for basketball people. Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks was randomly traded for Anthony Davis. Nobody saw this coming. There was no trade rumors. LeBron didn't even know. He was at dinner with his family in New York, and they told him, and he didn't even think it was real until Anthony Davis FaceTimed him later and said, "I'm being traded." And he actually said, "I didn't even think it was real until Luka showed up into the facility." Coach, what are your thoughts on the Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis trade? Mind you, Anthony Davis is in his 30s at his back end of his career, and Luka Doncic and Kyrie went to the NBA Finals last year, and Luka Doncic is only 25 years old.
So initially, yeah, are you passionate about this?
I'm very into it.
Initially, I thought it was not a great trade. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. Not quite as bad as the Deshaun Watson trade.
Worst trade in history
ever. But it was not a great trade. But the more you look at it, LeBron's not going to be in the league forever.
It's a good take.
So trying to find somebody that can kind of fill his role on the team, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
I'm now hearing rumors. I'm not going to lie to you, and I love hearing the rumors. There's less than 24 hours or something left in the trade deadline, and there are rumors that they are looking to trade LeBron to the Warriors and build around Luka Doncic.
If LeBron James ends up with the Golden State Warriors, I'm going to lose.
That would be the craziest full circle moment.
Yeah, I know. There is a rumor about it, but I thought personally, getting Anthony Davis, he definitely fits the system in Dallas.
Yeah.
Interesting. They were playing with 3 guards over there. They're playing with Doncic, Thompson, and Kyrie.
They made a freaking edit for him when he left on their Instagram page.
But it's just interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how it's play out. I know everybody in Dallas is pissed off right now, though. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, it will.
I've heard that LeBron is going to be playing second fiddle to Luka. He's going to be his co-star, like his backup star. Like LeBron's not.
It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be interesting to watch. I think Luka's supposed to make his debut on Saturday.
He was in the building last night.
Yeah, and he's like coming back from injury. So I think he's supposed to. They think he's gonna make his debut on Saturday. Anyways, my next question. I also wrote this one, and I think it's really interesting. Christian brought it up a couple days ago at practice, and you were very passionate about it. And I kind of like. I was on the bike today, and I was like, I actually wonder if we can go just a tiny bit more in depth. These are quick questions. These are off-topic questions. But what do you think about the league they want to make? Right. For athletes to run track and stuff like the Olympics, but on
the enhanced
games for performance enhancing drugs.
I think it's stupid. I think we should be putting that kind of money into legitimate sports because
and even promoting like the game of track and field and making it
right
better
because here's what's going to happen is that no elite level athlete is going to switch over to do this.
Exactly.
And so people are going to watch this thinking that somebody's going to run like an 8-second 100 meter and it's not going to happen.
Because they're not the best of the best athletes.
Right.
Yeah.
These are average Joes that are like, I'm going to take a...
It's different giving like a D1 like sprinter performance enhancers and giving Noah Lyles
right
in performance enhancers.
Yeah, and so I just I don't think they're gonna get what they are looking to get out of this, because there's the trouble with track and field is that everybody wants to see a world record every single time out. Our sport is very black and white in that way, and I just don't. They're pumping like millions of dollars into this, where I'd rather see that money go to the Grand Slam.
Mm-hmm.
And
Grand Slam's going to be interesting.
Or just something that is
something
like
that can,
legit within like
and
just
something
give it
that's
to the
genuinely good for the sport.
Or
right?
just give the millions of dollars to the USOC and let's help our actual Olympic sports.
And you said it the other day of like, why are we just going to give these mid-tier athletes steroids and stuff and performance enhancers? Like, nothing's going to happen. I think I didn't even look at it that way, because when I first heard of it, I'm like, oh, that would be interesting. Like, it would be it's an interesting concept to be like, oh, what could these guys really do if they were on these? But
there's no way to
prove
you can't giving it's exactly what you said. Giving a D1 athlete the PEDs and giving Michael Jordan PEDs is going to be
way different. There's such a skill gap. But anyways, our last rapid fire question is an either or. I got very creative with it. I didn't even think about this. The reason I came up with this question was because I saw Nick Schwartz walking out of the facility this morning, and he was wearing these. Would you prefer split shorts or half tights?
I'm a split short guy for sure. I will wear half tights depending on the weather, but I think I've only raced in half tights a couple of times when it has been frigid out, like snowing like below 30 degrees outside type of thing. But even then, I've still worn split shorts. I just personal preference. I'm an old school guy.
I think there's a weird. Maybe it's like a mental thing or something. But I used when I first started running, dude, I was so happy to get a pair of BOA split shorts. Loved it. When I wore half tights the first time, dude, I just felt snapped. Like I felt like I was Noah Lyles doing my.
I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I've never worn them. I've only worn split shorts my whole career.
Every time I put on split shorts, I just feel faster. I don't know why. But
split shorts or half tights?
Sorry, half tights.
Okay.
Half tights. I feel faster when I wear half tights.
Anyways.
What is your favorite concert that you've been to?
So what did I just say? I've seen 245.
Oh my gosh,
artists,
dude!
Live.
That's ridiculous.
Really?
Oh my god.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
So, I think the best concert that I've ever been to is the Nine Inch Nails concert.
No kidding.
A couple years ago at Blossom. Like it was the most crowded I've ever seen Blossom, and as
for Nine Inch Nails, really,
it was. Well, they started in Cleveland.
Oh.
So that like they started technically in Lakewood.
Oh wow.
So I showed a couple people the video of him playing with that like 80s band yesterday, which is hilarious. But then I would say a couple of others. I got to see Page and Plant from Led Zeppelin at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. It was at that time it was Gund Arena. From the 6th row, so that was pretty epic.
Close. Was it packed there too?
Yeah,
I would assume it's probably pretty packed.
So that's the closest anyone will, from my era, will get to seeing Led Zeppelin live. Essentially, two of the four members. And then some of my fondest memories of concerts are the Blink shows. I've seen them 10 times.
You've seen Blink 10 times?
10 times.
Wow. You were at Blink recently, a couple months ago, right?
Summer, and that, like, thinking back to when I was in college going to those shows, those are some pretty epic shows. But from just a performance standpoint, I still get chills thinking about that new Nine Inch Nails show. Like, it was just... They ended up bringing back all of the members, people that had been in the band at one point in time played a song together. They did a Filter song because the lead singer from Filter was in Nine Inch Nails for a while. Like, it was just, they did a lot, and the set list was just very on point. And as I said, the place was packed, everybody was dressed in black. There was no color whatsoever within the whole facility. It was just a very cool. Like the ground was like shaking.
Oh my god!
It was just it was pretty.
When
epic.
did you go to that one?
I want to say that was like September or October of 2 years ago.
Oh, so not that long
Dr.
ago.
Locke.
Coach,
No.
did
You
you
with Dr. Locke?
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah.
did you ever see Billy Joel?
No.
Have you seen Billy Joel, right?
I think Becky got to see him. And Becky also got to see Tom Petty. So those are the two that she has.
Becky got to see Tom Petty.
Yeah, in
Wow.
Wichita, Kansas. And I was at a meet, of course.
That sucks.
Yeah, it was
That
so...
Billy Joel was. I got free tickets to go see him. 7th row Billy Joel. Only time he's ever been to Progressive Field, and
That would be a cool... Because I know Wrigley Field does a bunch of shows.
Mm-hmm.
They'll do like at least 1 or 2 shows a summer. I think that would be a really cool venue to go see a concert in.
Where are you going? You're going to New Jersey soon, aren't you? Who are you going to see over there?
Oasis.
Oh yeah, you're going to see Oasis.
Yeah.
And isn't somebody playing in Cleveland? At the
Nine
same
Inch
Yeah,
Nails.
9 Inch Nails. Oh no way, it's 9 Inch Nails.
Same night.
Wow,
So
so you had to pick one.
yeah, I'll go see Oasis.
I don't think that's.
Have
Yeah.
you seen
one
Oasis?
time.
Have
Yeah.
you seen Oasis? Before?
No.
So
Because
if I
when
were
did
you,
they
I'd do
break
that
up? When was that?
Oh, back in like 2003 or 4.
Yeah.
Like, so 20 some years ago they broke up and they're brothers. Like,
Yeah.
so hopefully they make it. If not, I've got a great backup plan. I will go see Nine Inch Nails
Amazing
again.
backup plan. It
Yeah.
sounds like from the last one. you
Rage
did.
Against the Machine was another really good one. That was a more recent one. Yeah, I like, obviously music is my...
You weren't.
I love live music.
You weren't impressed with Cage the Elephant, correct?
I was not.
Yeah.
I felt so bad. The guys on
They're
the
a
team were
great
so
band,
excited
dude. I
for
was
me to go
excited.
see
excited.
them.
I remember
and I was
that
just
was like a
like,
speed development day, and I was like,
Yeah.
dude, you're gonna love Cage the Elephant. I love Cage the Elephant.
yeah, I don't know, their stage presence just wasn't my
That's what you get with a
style.
lot of them.
Yeah.
Like the new wave alt bands, because I know that's I've heard the Arctic Monkeys are similar. As they've grown, they've just become less. They've become more of like an avant-garde, like, oh, we're too cool for this. And
Yeah.
then, oh, like
It's kind of, this is a really hot take, but I've seen Bob Dylan twice, and both times
Really?
Becky and I have just been kind of disappointed. Like, as a
I can
musician,
kinda-
he is
yeah.
really
Make
good,
a
but
movie about him.
he doesn't.
I saw it. Yeah.
He doesn't interact at all with the crowd, and so anyways,
And I could kind of even watching the film and seeing concerts online of his, I could see that.
yeah,
I mean,
it's incredible
incredible artist,
Yes,
incredible poet. But
Yep.
And I feel like I don't want to segue into something too off topic, but I feel like part of the art is being a good performer.
Well, yeah.
and
it
you wanna
depends.
entertain
Yes,
your
it depends on what
audience,
you're.
Yeah.
to some extent.
I don't think Blink-182 are the well, Travis is a very good drummer, but musically I don't think they are like the most sophisticated songwriters and stuff, but there's something about their stage presence that I
makes you
love their
enjoy
potty
them.
humor. I love
That makes you go
like,
back 10
yeah,
times.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a huge Blink fan, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah, I knew you were really into Blink. The recruit we just had, we asked him what kind of music he likes. He said, I'm a real big punk rock guy. I like Blink-182.
I started geeking.
And I go, Evie is going to love you. You bring that up to him.
I immediately
I thought that was
looked
interesting.
I was like, do you know who Jeff Rosenstock is? He goes, no.
That's all we have for today, Coach. I appreciate you, and I want to thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely, no, this is
Dylan,
awesome, guys.
Especially you. I thought we had a really good conversation today, guys.
Yep.
Definitely might need to do a follow-up episode with this one. And we will have a few follow-up episodes coming soon. But I appreciate you guys for listening, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
All right, that was a really good one.
Holy